Eric, have you ever, on your farm, raked an animal?
I don't know.
Never have.
I didn't
Never
ask you,
will.
RKJ.
And guess what? That would be the worst mistake I would ever do. And a guy who would do that would be on cocaine. And guess what? I was never on cocaine to do that. I was 100%. I treat those animals with respect.
Welcome, everybody, to the Ring Generals podcast. My name is Nick Nenad. Alongside me is Easy Eric Santos.
What's cooking, guys? And happy Independence Day from Mexico.
Also with me is my main man, Jesse.
What's cooking, jabronis?
And, of course, the RKJ Man.
Let's talk that talk, y'all. Hypocritical Nick. How about them Clippers, bro?
Not good. Not good.
Hey, man, look, let me talk about this really quickly. You guys appointed a fake king to be the main face of the NBA this year in Kawhi Leonard. Okay, so all you Clippers fans, you deserve the slander you're going to get. And I'm going to give you a lot of slander throughout this podcast in stride, Nick. It's going to come in stride on this podcast because my main man, Jared, didn't do his job on the podcast beforehand on Cover 2, but I'm here to finish that job. He was the mashed potatoes. I am the mother effing gravy.
Well, I'll say this. I think we probably lost a lot of Clipper fans here, so just because of those
yeah, our view count is going to go down.
Hey, man, we need you to like, comment, and subscribe. Why? Because we dunk on these mofos in the podcast industry like Anthony Davis and LeBron James, baby. And we're not overrated like the LA Clippers. Nick's LA Clippers, that is. Easy Eric Santos. Take it over, my brother.
What's going on, guys? And you can check out all this good stuff on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe at past videos of EA Sports' UFC 3. And maybe in the future, we'll be getting some EA UFC 4 gameplay, as well as WWE 2K games. Hopefully, you can get those 2K games right, WWE 2K. So with that being said, Jesse, take it away.
Yeah, I mean, please interact with us. You know, get entangled with us on the Twitter, Instagram, whatever. So please like, subscribe, and always.
Raise a glass in the sky and salute the Ring Generals.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever. I mean, I have to take it in stride. I am a Clippers fan. If you guys don't know, that probably just lost a lot of other viewers by me saying that. But yes, I'm a Clippers fan. I will take it in stride. We are allowing RKJ Man just to roast me. He's rocking his Lakers hat. I don't know if you guys can see it, but yeah, I will take this on the chin, and we'll go. But besides all that, we have a great show for you guys today. Miro, maybe the biggest pro wrestling Clippers fan, perfectly, right? Like perfectly,
Nice.
He's in the news and then the Clippers screw up. Miro is now with AEW, his name formerly known as Rusev in the WWE is now Miro Day, no more Rusev Day. He's with AEW, and we will also be getting into the biggest UFC fights coming up in the next 2 weeks. That's including UFC 253 and UFC Fight Night, headlined by Colby Covington and Tyron Woodley. Some big fights to talk about. We'll get to that later. Let's start with Miro, Rusev, whatever you want to call him. He's in AEW.
And where to start? Miro showing up in AEW, it says a lot. It says like a lot to a lot of wrestlers coming into AEW. It's also kind of like the result of, you know, they promise you a lot of things, and then they put you as a joke. But Rusev, you know, when he was in WWE, he actually made the Rusev Day thing work. He actually made it work. If anything, his merchandise was actually the reason why a lot of people were actually going for him. Like the merchandise actually flew off the shelves for Rusev at the time. And I think McMahon, he didn't take that into consideration, maybe, or maybe some of the guys in the back didn't take that seriously. So it's like, okay, so it's like, even if your merchandise doesn't sell, we still don't really see anything with you. So we're probably gonna have to like kind of squander you a little bit. So it's like merchandise sell. It's like, does it even matter anymore? But I think it mattered to Rusev. But with that being said, I think it's also one of those things where they push Rusev or Miro to that point to say, I'm out of here. I'm out of here. And so I think Miro coming into AEW as a surprise. I think maybe some people expected it and some people didn't. But for me, I was one of those guys who maybe in the future he's going to show up in AEW, but it'll probably be short term. But time will only tell. I think Miro, there might be some promise to him, and there might be a way for them to have Miro be showcased the way how he should have been showcased in WWE as that dominant force. And this guy Miro, we'll see what happens with him in the future. And I'm just glad to see him in AEW, and hope to see him again. Later on tonight here on Wednesday night, or
it's true. Yeah, we're recording while AEW Dynamite is happening right now. Now, Jesse, Miro coming out rocking a gold blonde haircut, right? Does that mean his character? Do you think he's going to bring any of that Rusev type character, or do you think maybe the hair color change, the change of company, is Miro starting over, and maybe we'll see a whole different Rusev/Miro in AEW? What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's a complete change, and the hair dye is actually, for me, from my personal opinion, I think it's a tribute to AEW, which is the colors of AEW, black and gold, right? Or yellow, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it's a tribute to AEW since he signed a contract with them. And not only this is just big for him, but it's big for the for the pro wrestling world, the community. Some of them expected, like Eric said, and, he kind of alluded little things here and there, but, the man likes to play games, and, this is actually pretty great. And I think they hit like a million views mark, I think a couple of weeks ago or last week.
Yeah. Last week a million views for AEW. Now that may attribute to the fact that NXT was on Tuesday, so a couple of the NXT viewers that maybe would look at NXT on Wednesdays over AEW, maybe they got them. But overall, a good show. I thought AEW's show was good last week. RKJ Man. So we now have seen multiple WWE guys come into AEW. There's a lot of fans on the Twitter talking about how AEW talked about how they're going to develop their own talent. Now Rusev, a.k.a. Miro, coming into AEW, another big guy. They've already given the title to Moxley. They've already given the title to Brody Lee. What happens with Miro, and do you think AEW is being a little hypocritical here?
I definitely think there is some hypocrisy going on with AEW. Let me say this, first of all. I have always loved Miro Rusev. The only two things I haven't liked about him was his hair color that he debuted last Wednesday. He looked like a Slim Shady. And number two, the fact he's an LA Clippers fan. Which, by the way, fun fact, in Game 5, when Miro showed up on the little virtual screen thing, the Clippers lost. So I'm going to now call this the Miro curse, too, for the Clippers, too, as well, because they started losing every single
I didn't even know that.
You had to slip that in, man. You just had to slip that in.
Oh, don't worry. I've got plenty up my sleeve tonight. There's plenty up my sleeve, Roman Reigns style. But let's get back to the Miro situation. Look, I really like this signing for AEW. They need more big men. However, my biggest issue is this. You want to establish an identity outside of WWE. When AEW first came out, they said we were going to be an analytical-based company. Everything was going to be on the stats, and the rankings are going to be kind of like college football, and how that's going to play impact in who is number one in title contention. And I really, unfortunately, have not seen that since I've gotten here. I think, in all honesty, it's been similar to WWE in a way. With Miro coming in and making that shot, taking that shot towards Vince McMahon and the brass ring comment and those things, AEW is in slippery territory here. You don't want to become like TNA 2.0. You don't want to become like WCW, where you're hiring these guys from the WWE and letting them go out and talk absolute shit on the WWE product to your smart fans. Now, is this going to help AEW get more fans over from WWE? Absolutely. But if Miro is not used to also build some talent in AEW who's been there in the beginning, I do find this a little hypocritical, and I am a little concerned about this because this is multiple people coming over from WWE now. It's now becoming a problem. Now, it's not as bad as it was in TNA. It seemed like anytime TNA would drop somebody back in the day, TNA would pick them up in like 5 minutes. Like a phone call was coming from Dixie within 2 minutes. Oh, I heard you're unsigned from WWE. Want to come to TNA? Sure thing, Dixie. Well, that's not happening anymore. Okay, it's AEW's yard to running now. It's AEW's situation now. I hope Tony Khan is smart with how he's spending this money too, because he's going to have to give bigger contracts out to these WWE stars, and that means when these deals come up for these superstars that you've had since day one, and they're going to want money, somebody's got to go. You're not going to be able to pay them what they're worth. So that's something that I will be watching out for with AEW in this Miro situation and multiple WWE superstars jumping ship to AEW.
Just so you guys, if you guys are wondering what the rankings are, because I had no idea what they were until you just brought that up, RKJ Man. Looking at the rankings for the men, they're a little skewed because there's 2 titles, so there's a lot of guys that technically could deserve title shots. Lance Archer is on top. He is 13-1, and he is going to get the AEW championship shot. So analytically, it makes sense. You also have Brian Cage, MJF with 1 loss up there. Cody is 18-2. And then an interesting one here is Scorpio Sky at 7-2. He's likely the next title contender for Brody Lee's championship. So you have Cody, who's out with an injury. MJF is not in the title hunt because he just lost cheating or whatever it was. And then Brian Cage kind of stuck in the middle because he already lost his AEW championship shot. So interesting. The women, Nyla Rose is on top. Obviously, Hikaru Shida, the champion. That will make sense because they're at least going for, they're doing a Nyla Rose, Hikaru Shida feud, it seems like. And then the tag teams is where it gets really muddled and messed up. You have 14-6 Best Friends, 7-3 Young Bucks, 6-2 Natural Nightmares, 12-1 Omega and Hangman. Omega and Hangman aren't even a tag team anymore, apparently. So, like, a little messed up in tag team. But as far as analytical go, AEW is actually not doing as bad as maybe we thought. A lot of the top people are still getting the title shots, and they haven't manipulated as much as we might have thought. Just me giving my opinion on Miro before we switch topics really quickly. I do think this is kind of like, besides female wrestlers, because I think they can use whoever they can get, I do think this kind of feels like the last big guy they're going to sign for a while. And Miro does make sense because he is very anti-WWE since he got released. He was even anti-WWE when he was in AEW, or when he was in the WWE. And I feel like he was a big enough star. They got so screwed by Vince McMahon, who just was senile about Rusev Day working and being over. I think Miro does deserve this shot. And I don't think this is a WWE guy coming over to AEW. I think this is a guy who got over, a great professional wrestler who deserves a shot with a company that cares about him. And I think AEW will do a good job. But I do see this being the last big signing they do, besides a woman, in AEW. Because like I said, I think the women can use whoever they can get because that division is just not very good. But as far as men go, I hope this is the last one for a while, for sure. Now, one of the things that was interesting about WWE and crossing over to AEW and with Miro and all this stuff was the third party thing that happened with WWE and Vince McMahon. And that is WWE kind of putting the nail in wrestlers using Twitch and video games and other outlets using their wrestler name to make money on the side. So I do want to get everybody's comments. RKJ Man, I got your comments last time, so I will get yours first. What are your thoughts about the way AEW has handled it, and what are your thoughts about just the entire situation with WWE and third party?
Both companies are being petty. I mean, the definition of petty. I don't understand why the WWE is being so confusing in their message to their superstars on what they can and cannot do. I understand that people like Big E and Alexa Bliss and so on and so forth, maybe even Paige, because I heard she's huge on Twitch. I heard she's making tons of money on Twitch, like 6 figures is what I'm hearing.
Oh, wow.
I understand they cannot use their real names because they're benefiting off WWE property. But my biggest issue is this: if they want to use their actual names, if they can't use their stage names, they should be able to use their actual names. And I don't understand what the problem is. But the problem is WWE made a very vague statement. Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful got a hold of that memo, got a hold of everything. Then the WWE is like, oh shit, we messed up. we've got to retract. We got to figure out how we're going to deal with this because we're getting bad PR. Because we all know Vince cares about that PR. He said that to Renee Young. You giving COVID and telling everybody was just bad PR. So he had to retract and make some stupid comparisons to Disney and Warner Brothers. And it's just the definition of BS. And I'm sick and tired of it, just like Clippers fans. And the fact of the matter is this, and the fact of the matter is this, like, in this situation with the WWE, you need to be a little bit more clear. And what I personally thought, as soon as I heard it, is they're going to create their own Cameo channel. They're going to create their own Twitch channel. And then guess what? That's going to cut into the profit of the other superstars who have been making tens of thousands of dollars on Twitch, on Cameo, on third-party services. And it's bad. Now, let's move on to AEW real quick. AEW told us, a lot of us, that we were going to take the high road in this little war with the WWE. And we've known that now to be absolutely untrue. That little statement they made with Kip Sabian proves that just now. Hey, AEW sponsors this message. It's a little fun. It's a joke. It's lighthearted. But it's those types of situations that happen that make me say, okay, AEW, it's okay to take a couple of shots. But now you're getting to the point where you're taking too many shots. I don't want AEW to become TNA 3.0, 2.0, whatever you want to call it, and to be able to be that company who goes up against the WWE all the time and always challenges their authority because it's gotten old. I want you to focus on your own thing. Do your own thing.
Eric, your thoughts on all this as someone that's in the video game community. What would your response be if, say, you had a stage name in WWE? Would you use your real name, even though it's technically breaking kayfabe and all that stuff? What would be your opinion? Like, what would you do in this situation if the WWE told you you couldn't use your stage name? Would you use your real name, or would you just stop doing your Twitch and stop doing all that stuff?
I'd still continue doing the channels. I mean, still streaming, because obviously it's something that I think a lot of people in this day and age have been liking, and they've been enjoying streaming, or just even doing podcasts on Twitch as well. It doesn't have to be just gaming. It can be just talking, just like what Robert Whittaker from UFC does. He does it as well. I mean, those guys, they make a bulk load of money, even just by the just chatting kind of thing, and gaming as well. So I think it just depends. They like, if I was working for them, they would still give me, all right, give me a list of what I need to do and what I don't have to do, so that way we can talk about it, because it's better off if you guys don't tell me, like, from far away distance. Like, I need you guys to tell me right away, like, what I'm on the spot. I need you guys to tell me about what I can do, what I can't use. If I got to think about something else, I'll do something else. Then at the same time, it's kind of like, it feels like there's kind of some sort of like dictatorship inside WWE. It feels like there's some sort of like a leash in there that they hold you up upon, and it feels like, is it just me, or WWE just being insecure or something like that? It just makes it feel like WWE, they kind of fear that the superstar might be bigger than the WWE. Well, I mean, you can probably say The Rock is a lot bigger than WWE, and he's making a lot more money than WWE combined, I think. I don't know. I mean, I just have to see their salary, but I think it's just a part of insecurity. Maybe it could be that, or just disconnection, or they probably just don't get their other third-party platforms. They probably just don't get it, or they probably think that their name is going to be bigger than the WWE, or I don't know. Maybe I sense some sort of insecurity in there. There might be some of that involved, but I still need to know.
I'm glad you said that there's insecurity, and I'm glad you brought up The Rock's name. I'm not going to use him as an example, but let's say John Cena was still in the WWE regularly. Do you think this policy would apply to somebody like him? Or do you think do you think this policy would apply to Roman Reigns or Triple H or somebody like that that's maybe a little higher? Or are they kind of going after a Big E or an Xavier Woods that aren't at the top of the card? They're not going to be the big time guy, right? I feel like, and Jesse, I want you to answer this question. I feel like WWE, like this third party policy thing is nitpicking, and I don't feel like legally they could force only a few people. I feel like they would have to force the whole company, and I think that's going to draw a lot of people away. An example of this is AJ Styles. If AJ Styles has to use his own name, Jesse, it messes everything up, because personally, like, AJ Styles is AJ Styles' name.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's his name. So if he has to use whatever his name is, Alan Jones or whatever, don't you think that kind of hurts his like Twitch channel a little bit? Like, what are your opinions on this? Do you think the top guys would get in trouble for this, or do you think it's just because a lot of the lower card people were kind of taking advantage of this?
I think a lot of the people in the lower card are taking advantage of it because I'm pretty sure that they want to make more money than the people who are higher up on the higher ups, and plus they're probably getting a little less money than they are, and they just want that, they just want to equalize the same amount that they, concede. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure the guys in the higher ups will, like, it doesn't really apply to them that much, but it does apply. But it applies to more of the little guys. So, I mean, they try to take advantage as much as little things here and there, but, WWE put a hold of that, and that kind of screwed them over. So they're going to have to find a new way. But AJ Styles, on the other hand, he's had that name since his I think it was like I think it was Impact days. So I mean, it doesn't really affect him that much. It won't hurt him that much. So
well, that's the example too. It's like
it's his thing.
It should be everybody. It shouldn't be like it just because someone has a WWE name necessarily doesn't mean that like AJ Styles should be able to use his wrestler name. If it should be a company-wide thing, or it should be not a thing, right? Let the wrestlers make and they're fucking independent contractors anyways. Like, I think legally these wrestlers should do something about this. I don't know. I do want to say something. I think maybe this is the timing is interesting that this third party announcement comes likely because of Lana and who just debuted in AEW. You think this might be WWE being super petty and attacking Miro's wife and going after her because he decided to go to AEW? Does anybody think there's merit in that?
I think. I mean, I don't.
It's mad for me.
Oh, you guys don't? None of you agree? That's amazing.
No.
Really quick. All right. This announcement came out before Miro debuted in AEW. Okay.
I know, but don't you think they knew something? Don't you think they might have known on the down low that Miro was probably going to sign soon? Don't you think all wrestling kind of knows what's going on with everybody?
Oh, hell yeah.
That's just so that's what I'm saying.
This thing has got to be like, beyond the whole name thing. Maybe sometimes WWE can be concerned about whenever guys like Orton or guys like AJ Styles are playing their games or just talking. I mean, there was one time where Orton was he was playing one of his games and he was talking positive about Sammy Guevara. So that's kind of like maybe kind of giving the competition sort of like the like, oh, we're cool with each other. So I think McMahon may be hearing things like, oh well, some of these guys, like when they're playing their games, they talk positive about the competition or something else in their life, and they're breaking kayfabe. We should do something about it. So I think this maybe go beyond the whole name thing.
This is what I think, like you said, Eric, before, insecurity, but it comes more insecurity with Vince. Vince has the last say on everything. And since this is going to be happening, and it does happen outside of the organization, whenever they're outside in public, they talk, they talk to the other wrestlers. Sean Spears' wife, she's in WWE, and Sean Spears is in AEW, but, they're always in each other's like Instagram. So, I mean, it's just so stupid and petty, and especially for Vince, you have to be more protective of the business wise. And I get it, but you can't stoop yourself to that low of a freaking level and say, I don't want this person to be part of your life.
It's overprotection right there, man.
Dude, what RKJ doesn't over the top petty just scream WWE? Like, doesn't it just scream WWE? I know you attacked AEW, but doesn't it, like, why don't we attack WWE for being so petty about guys even mentioning AEW? Like, I know AEW wants to take the higher road, but like they got to take their shots, right? Because WWE is so like they're such babies about anything AEW related. I feel like AEW should be able to take a shot or two here and there because someone's being so petty on the other side.
One thing it kind of also kind of alludes to a little bit, and I'm pretty sure this spoken in like in the past before years, a wrestlers pro wrestling union. So whenever this, especially with this third party playing into effect, it's gonna build up to the point they had enough. They don't want any of this BS. They don't want to deal with Vince's BS. I mean, if I was in the WWE, I wouldn't want to deal with that kind of BS. You know, if I'm the little guy and trying to make some extra money, of course I want that extra money. It's gonna help me. But you know, if they're like superstars, or should I say mega stars, they're making like, I'm making freaking crumbs compared to them. So I mean, yeah, of course. But yeah, eventually this is going to lead to a union sometime soon in the future. So it's going to happen.
Look,
go ahead, sir.
I think thinking that Lana is impacted this situation is as dumb as you, Nick, saying that Milwaukee and Clippers were facing each other and the Clippers were winning.
I knew it was coming.
It's coming, and more is coming up. But
RKJ, you're gonna love the start of the podcast. I'll just say that right now.
Hey man,
I
love stuff. Say this real quickly, also as well, man.
Clipper roast mania right here, man.
Man, when Lemon Pepper Lou went up to Atlanta, I wonder if he had the strippers like socially dancing. He had the chicken wing and he was slapping. He was biting the chicken wing, slapping. Biting chicken wing, slapping. All right,
quick question. Where's
if you know the story, RKJ, he went in there for the wings and then he apparently left.
Well,
so no,
I don't
think he was slapping.
He got to dance. It's been confirmed. I sent you that in the group chat. He got to dance socially distanced. Like, how are you going to get?
I'm not believing it. That doesn't make any sense. How do you get a socially dance? How do you get a socially? I said socially dance. Socially distanced lap dance. What the hell is that?
It probably got some gloves. It had the chicken, and then pulled down the mask to eat the chicken. Pulled up the mask. Slap the booty. Okay, that's probably what he did.
Where do you get the chicken? Where do you get the chicken wing? Where do you get the chicken wing, dude?
They have great wings over in that club, from what I heard. And guess what? Those wings cost him a championship, and the whole Clippers won. Anyway, getting back to the point of Lana.
I can't argue that.
Let's get back to the point of Lana, because plenty of Clipper slander is coming Nick's way. The Lana situation, I think, is a little bit ridiculous because these women for the WWE, before, during the days when they were divas or whatnot, they were doing certain things on Instagram and social media, and the WWE wasn't saying anything before that. I just find it weird that they wanted to do this now, other than there's been a certain amount of things happening. Now, let's talk about AJ Styles real quick. A lot of people are wondering what's going on with him. He actually owns his name. I actually found that out from one of the podcasts I listen to. I believe it's JD from New York. He said that AJ Styles owns his name. So when he left TNA, he could go to New Japan with AJ Styles. He could go to Ring of Honor with AJ Styles. He could go to WWE with AJ Styles. So he owns his own name. John Cena, I heard, and I saw in an interview with Howard Stern, actually gave his name up to the WWE. He has rights. His rights. His name is actually.
But so RKJ, answer my question from earlier. Do you think John Cena is subject to this? Why is John Cena not subject to this? Why can John Cena go make movies with his name on it? Does WWE get a percentage of that? Did WWE always get a percentage of John Cena movies and TV shows? I think there's a bias to someone like John Cena, and I don't think that's fair. If you're a company that is going to put this down on your NXT wrestlers and your lower card wrestlers, John Cena should be given all those paychecks up for those commercials and those cartoons he's doing and all that stuff. That should be going to the WWE. I mean, maybe it is, and maybe John Cena just forever is going to be a slave to the WWE as far as finances go. But I think that's not fair, and I don't even think I know AJ Styles has his own name. I know Randy Orton has his own name. I don't think that's fair that there could be guys in the company just because WWE thinks that their names are good enough to use that they shouldn't be there for the same policy. I don't think that's fair.
I will say this. TNA had that type of deal, and ironically, Cody and Brandy were in TNA for a quick moment, and the whole reason why they left TNA was because Brandy had did something on a TV show, and TNA wanted proceeds from that. They wanted a portion of that. So if John Cena was having to give up his money, or we had these superstars, like for instance, Sasha Banks just is going to be in The Mandalorian this year, okay, later on, coming up in a month or so on Disney Plus. So shout outs to her. Let's say, for instance, if WWE says we want some of that money, you would see a lot of these superstars start complaining, and you would see a lot of bad things happening. I don't think that's happening, but I think there is preferential treatment given. One of the things that I have heard is that the WWE, in terms of talking to these wrestlers about their third-party uses, is like it's going to be talked about with the wrestlers on a first-name, first-come basis. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to talk about it. It kind of depends on your situation. Well, it's a situation where if John Cena goes and says, Vince McMahon, I want to go do this and this and this, Vince is going to be like, oh, yeah, absolutely. But if Joe Smo in NXT Developmental comes up to Triple H or Vince and says, hey, I want to do this, they're going to say, hell no, you're not going to do that. We own your name. So it's preferential treatment, and it's always happened. We always know that nepotism absolutely exists in wrestling, and especially in the WWE system.
Oh yeah, and favoritism too. There's also favoritism in there too.
Yeah. I wonder in The Mandalorian if Sasha Banks is going to be credited as Sasha Banks or Mercedes Justine Kastner Varnado. Because that's her real name. So if it's Sasha Banks, I'm feeling like there needs to be some lawsuits against WWE. If she's allowed to use Sasha Banks in a movie, or what is it, a TV show? Mandalorian's a TV show, right?
TV show.
TV show. If she's allowed to use Sasha Banks in The Mandalorian and doesn't have to pay WWE proceeds, bullshit. Immediately right there. That's your top example for any wrestler that wants to sue the WWE. They should be able to. That is. I don't care if she's Snoop Dogg's cousin. That's not fair. Preferential treatment, I get it, but that's bullshit.
Oh, really quickly, is this extending to the executive? This should extend to the executive.
Oh,
too.
No way.
Like Bruce Pritchard. Like Bruce Pritchard does something to wrestle with Conrad Townsend. I know immediately people were blowing up Conrad's Twitter like, is the podcast still going to go? This should extend to everybody now. Okay? Let's be fair.
Guys, it's bullshit. It's not fair.
Yeah.
It's not fair. Okay, we need to get some. We're all done talking again.
I guess we're.
Yeah. So, what were you saying?
Nothing else to add.
No, I guess we're moving on. No,
nothing else to add. Just
move on to UFC, so you're gonna love it. Okay, so we are moving on. Two awesome fight cards here in UFC. We have UFC Fight Night this Saturday or last Saturday, whenever you're watching this podcast. And then we have UFC 253 on September 27th. I believe all these cards are Fight Island, correct? These are Fight Island cards once again?
I believe so.
Okay. I know that UFC 253 for sure is. Covington Woodley might be in the United States. Nonetheless,
it's
we have
in the
two
Apex.
great. Yeah, we have. Okay, there's the answer. So one of them in the Apex, the other one going to be on Fight Island. Fight Night is headlined by Colby Covington, Tyron Woodley. Lots of bad blood. We all know Colby Covington. We all know Tyron Woodley. That's a big fight. We also have Donald Cerrone on this card. We have Johnny Walker, Mackenzie Dern. We got some names on this card, as well as Hamzat Chimaev, the Iron Man. He fights like every 2 weeks. And then of course UFC 253, headlined by Israel Adesanya, Stylebender versus Paulo Costa, who we all remember was in that big brawl with Yoel Romero when we went to UFC back at the Honda Center. And then, of course, the light heavyweight championship is on the line. Jan Blachowicz versus Dominic Reyes. John Jones is no longer the light heavyweight champion. He vacated the title. That is for his vacated title. Lots of big fights to start. Let's start with Fight Night. What's your first thoughts when you look at this UFC Fight Night card headlined by Covington and Woodley?
Looks pretty, man, it looks super. Yeah, definitely look forward to Cerrone getting back in there along with Nico Price, who went up against Vicente Luque in a flat-out war months ago. That was a really good fight. Seeing Cerrone back there, we'll see what happens with that guy. He still wants to keep on fighting. I can respect about the man. Johnny Walker up against Spann. Covington obviously up against Woodley. Those guys, we've been talking about it for months now, if this was going to happen, and we're actually going to be excited for it. And obviously 253 as well. Can't wait for that one. Now we might see Dominic Reyes and Blachowicz, if Reyes is for real. Like if we are we really going to see Reyes for as the champion, because he really did a good job of going up against John Jones in his last bout. Adesanya and Costa, those guys, obviously a lot of bad blood between those two. And Costa told Israel Adesanya that, yeah, I'm not gonna fight like what Yoel Romero did back in March. So I'm gonna catch him and I'm gonna beat his brains in. So obviously, and the shit talking that happened on ESPN, it's hilarious. I love when those guys
uncensored.
Yeah, it was uncensored. Those guys were just flapping gums at each other. It was fun, but nonetheless, Fight Night this weekend should be fun, and 253, I'm looking forward to it.
All right, Jesse. So your thoughts on Fight Night, and then your thoughts just on those two title fights coming up at UFC 253 as well.
The fight between Colby Covington and Woodley, I'm gonna go say this: if Woodley does not listen to his coaches, his cornermen, because I've noticed, and I'm pretty sure everybody else has noticed, since his last W was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Long time, yeah.
Yeah, so it's been a while since he had like a win. And ever since his coaches stopped telling him, hey, do not back against the cage, do not back, have your back to the cage, and he still does it. He does it repetitively. He does not listen to his coaches. I think he needs to either retire if he loses this fight, or find a new head coach and find a new gym, because his style is not clicking with his coaches. Duke Griffiths is a great coach and all, but it's not clicking with Woodley. And as for Colby Covington, since he's no longer part of the top team, I just wonder what other coaches he has in line. Is he going to go to Pat Militich's gym and work with him, or who's going to be working with? But I'm pretty sure Colby Covington will bring his A game to the best of his ability. I'm pretty sure he's going to do what Max Holloway did, but this time have his coaches with him. But he's going to still practice a little bit of social distance. Pretty sure he doesn't really give a crap about it. But still, he's going to be his A game and give Woodley a tough fight. As for Dominic Reyes and Blachowicz, I'm going to say this: if Blachowicz is a little bit more technical and is crisp on his boxing, it should be a tough night for Dominic Reyes, because Dominic Reyes, we seen him in the 5-round fight, and he kind of got a little bit gassed out towards the end of the last 2 rounds, which he had a tough time against John Jones. And and also his wrestling defense has got to play in the fact, because Dominic Reyes will try to go and take him down against a cage, and if he gets this win, he's going to be we're going to have another new fresh champion in the light heavyweight division. So, and what else? It's another fight.
Adesanya and Costa. I gotta get your opinion on Adesanya and Costa. Come on.
Oh yes.
What a fucking fight that is.
Okay, so as we saw with Adesanya versus Yoel Romero. We're just hoping that does not allude to that ever again. But if it does, even
real fight card. That what's so shitty about that too. That was the last card with fans. That's the last fight we saw with fans. I blame both Izzy and Yoel Romero for that. We both know though, Jesse, that ain't happening. That ain't happening in 2 weeks.
But no. But before that fight, you can't compare that fight to the freaking
Ngannou and Lewis fight.
No.
Yeah, no, Eric. That's what I was thinking too. Yeah, go ahead.
That's but what Jacek and Well Zhang, they put a hell of a fucking performance. You cannot
right before it.
So I mean,
best women's fight.
They booked the card wrong. It's like wrestling. When you book the main event, the co-main event ends up being the better fight.
Yeah,
it screwed over. But they still didn't throw any punches. Like, let's not give them. It was not going to be better than when Zhang and Jen Jacek, but I could have put on a better fight with like my cat in the middle of the octagon. You know what I'm saying? So,
hey Nick, you want to find out? You want to find out in a couple days?
No, I do not. My cat is very mean.
Even
Right
Derek
now,
Lewis.
fuck
You
me
want to
up.
find? You want to find out, Nick?
Eric was
Fight you,
talking
Eric.
about him.
No, Eric, I'm not
Eric's
fighting
ready
you.
to knock you out.
No, but anyways, Derek Lewis thanked Adesanya and Romero for the most boring fight in the MMA history. Um, but as for Adesanya, I just hope he's not as conservative as what he did with Yoel Romero. Yoel Romero is a counterattacker, or he blitzes people. He's a power puncher, not a very technical guy, but he is smart enough to know how to land those freaking high knees or explosive knees out of nowhere. Come to hell. Adesanya, more of a technical kickboxing guy background. But he's got phenomenal takedown defense. He's very rarely ever taken down at all. Even Gastelum gave him a hard time, but he still didn't go down. But this fight against Adesanya and in the eraser, Costa is going to be bringing his end game, but he's kind of a little bit similar to Yoel Romero. It's in the build up type of style, explosive, got a little shorter of hands, but still very explosive. And those punches combinations come out of nowhere. And Adesanya's got to be on the lookout for that. But he's got to pick Costa apart. He's got to go for the legs. He's got to go for the head, body. He's got to go for those liver shots with those kicks, and probably an axe kick out of nowhere. So he's gonna have to do something, pull a fucking rabbit out of his ass to knock out Costa. So.
Okay, RKJ. Obviously, I want to know: are these the kind of fights with Colby Covington, Woodley, and Costa and Adesanya? Are these the type of fights that would get you to tune in, take like an hour out of your day, and tune in? Both fights. Give me comments on both.
The Fight Night card, in my opinion, is so much better than UFC 253, to be honest with you, because it features a lot of recognizable name as a casual MMA fan, a casual UFC fan. And I keep saying this. This is what gets you guys, this is what gives UFC money, is the casual too. As a casual fan, I look at this and I see something that's very interesting. I see a lot of recognizable names. Now, I want to talk a little bit about that word retirement that you use, Jesse, because you use that word. You use that with Tyron Woodley, but I got another name that you could use that word with. How about Cowboy Donald Cerrone? See, you guys try to make him like the Kawhi Leonard. You guys try to make him a king of MMA, of UFC. You guys try to make him a king. But in my opinion, in 2020, he's been the definition of an imposter, like Kawhi Leonard and Paul George in the LA Clippers. And to be honest with you, I don't see it. You guys are the MMA experts, right?
Right. I'll tell you this.
Hold on. Let me speak first. You guys are the MMA experts, okay? You guys know what you're talking about, right? And you tell me to not Skip Bayless, the Stephen A. Smith of this podcast when it comes to MMA, right? You don't know what you're talking about. But predicted Cowboy Donald Cerrone was going to get knocked the fuck out against Conor McGregor. He got knocked the fuck out, okay? He lost to Anthony Pettis in a fight that a lot of people are watching, in a card that a lot of people were watching because there were no fans. I believe it was Anthony Pettis. Was it Anthony Pettis?
It was Anthony Pettis, yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're correct.
So he lost that. That's 2 straight fights. He has over 50 fights under his belt. If he loses this fight on Saturday, on Fight Night, wherever it's going to be in the Apex, Fight Island, it could be on the moon for all I care, he is not needed in the UFC anymore. He needs to go back to his farm and rake some animals and horses or whatever the hell he has to do, what he does in his personal time.
Rake some animals? What does that even mean?
I don't even know what he does.
Eric, have you ever raked an animal before? Eric, have you ever, on your farm, raked an animal?
I don't know.
Never have.
I didn't ask you, RKJ.
And guess what? That would be the worst mistake I would ever do. And a guy who would do that would be on cocaine. And guess what? I was never on cocaine to do that. I was 100%. I treat those animals with respect. All right.
Yeah. That's what RKJ doesn't. All we know. So what we got from that was that RKJ doesn't respect animals. That's what we. That's what we got.
Now a couple.
You're slandering his name. You're slandering his name.
Look. Okay. So Donald Cerrone, I think, would be on cocaine if he fought after he lost on Saturday night. And let's talk about this whole Colby Covington and Tyron Woodley fight. Now, obviously, I don't like Colby Covington because I think he's an asshole. He's a maggot, okay? And besides that, it's a situation where he's a heel. He plays a role. And to be honest with you, I don't even think Donald Trump gives a shit about Colby Covington, honestly. He's like, UFC's probably like...
I took a picture with him not that long ago.
Okay, look. But here's the situation with this fight. This is a very interesting fight because the two losses that Colby Covington has had, he's been on the mat. He had a submission earlier in his career that he lost on the mat. He lost to Kamaru Usman on the mat.
He did not lose to Kamaru Usman on the mat. No, he did not. He got knocked out.
Yeah.
He got knocked out on the mat. Was he not prostrated on the mat like this, Nick? Was he not prostrated with Kamaru Usman hitting him?
Was like,
Look, he made his jaw great again. I'll say that.
Look, and if Woodley gets Covington on the mat, it's over. As for UFC 253, talking about Israel Adesanya and Costa, I just want to say this. Costa, I heard you've been talking a lot of crap about John Jones. You better keep your mind focused on Israel. You better keep your mind focused on Stylebender, because if you don't, you're going to get knocked the F out with a kick.
I actually don't disagree with that. Paulo Costa needs to focus on the championship in front of him. Israel Adesanya is the John Jones of UFC right now, realistically. I mean, he's the next guy.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
Yeah, John Jones ain't looking at middleweight. He ain't looking at middleweight. He's looking at heavyweight. So there's
but
no.
You ever seen Costa's body? I think Costa probably could be in heavyweight.
Yeah,
I am surprised that guy gets down to 185. And for Adesanya to have to face these two guys in a row, Romero and Costa, if you just looked at these guys on paper, like if you looked at just picture them, you'd be like, there's no way Adesanya's winning. These guys are going to kill him.
That is
it's freaky. Yeah. But, here's the thing about Costa. I think Costa can win. I think absolutely Costa can win. And I think Adesanya needs to focus just as much as Costa does. But I think Adesanya, he tries to entertain the crowd and all that stuff. But who are you entertaining with no fans in the stands? Right? It'll be interesting to see how Adesanya fights with nobody there, right? But I know he's probably going to pull some tricks, but Costa, I feel like, is just going to go after him and just try to beat his ass. And yeah, there might be the tiring out factor because Costa's not used to being in title fights, but I think Adesanya might be in danger if he tries to play his little games. I think it's very interesting, and I could see Costa winning that fight. Dominic, sorry, go ahead, Jesse.
I do agree with you on that point, Nick. If Adesanya stops acting like a freaking character, like a cartoon character, and stay 100% focused, but I think that's part of his persona. I mean, it's always been him for quite a while. We've known him since he debuted in the UFC.
I'm just saying, with no fans,
yeah,
what does that do? It does nothing.
It kind of does something psychologically. It kind of hypes him up. So, I mean, psychologically, it kind of plays into his own factor, and maybe could play into freaking Costa's head too as well, especially with the games. But yes, Costa will come in 100% and try to freaking close the distance, knock Adesanya out if he can, because we all see Adesanya can take a punch, especially with Gastelum. Like I said, in his epic fight with Gastelum, he took some hard hitters, which usually Gastelum will knock somebody out with those hard hitters. But Adesanya, man, he's got a chin. So, given that, if Adesanya comes more technical, picks him apart, like I said, then he should have an easy W. He should have no problem, especially especially when he takes in Costa into the deep waters, which Costa does not have, is not used to at all. So, I mean, it could play either way. We'll just have to.
It's going to be a great fight. It's going to be an interesting fight for sure. Another great fight I do think is Dominic Reyes and John Blachowicz. It's underrated because everyone's used to John Jones that dominating the light heavyweight division, or Daniel Cormier being the champion. It's the first time in a while where we're going to see just a brand new name at the top of this list. Reyes, you got to think he's going to win this fight just because arguably he beat John Jones. He would have beat John Jones by decision. He didn't knock him out or submit him, but a lot of people think he beat John Jones. And so I think this is Dominic Reyes' fight to lose. I think this would be a huge strike on his career if he loses this fight. I think it's his title to win. You also create the potential maybe of a Dominic Reyes, John Jones rematch in the future if Reyes does end up dominating this division. But I think that's Dominic Reyes' fight to lose. Absolutely. That should be an easy Reyes win. And moving on to Covington and Woodley, boy, do I love this fight. I do like this fight better than the other three. RKJ Man, I'm with you on this. As far as this main event, I do think this is the best fight out of the three. There's a legitimate hate. Woodley's on a losing streak. Covington's coming off the big loss to Usman on national television in front of the world. Will Covington bring his wrestling back? Will he bring that like nonstop energy? I think he has to win. I think if not, Woodley has a good chance. Is Woodley still there? Is Woodley still a top contender? Because I think Colby Covington's on the up and up. Woodley is kind of, you mentioned retirement, Jesse. Woodley's chin just might not be there anymore. He just might not have it psychologically. And I think you're saying that he's, with his coaches, because I do remember his last fight, it was against Gilbert Burns, correct? And he was not listening to his coaches. He didn't listen to his coaches. That's why he lost. So I think both these guys need to use their wrestling. They use their strengths. Woodley says he's going to box him. I could see Woodley being too emotional and losing this fight just because of that, because of his hate toward Covington. I got Covington in this fight. I think Woodley is just on downturn. Tyron, please prove me wrong, because I think this welterweight division could continue to just be awesome, especially if we somehow get like a George St. Pierre return or something like that too. But I think that's my favorite fight on this. I actually agree with you. I think Cerrone doesn't have it anymore. I think Nico Price wins that fight. Johnny Walker's making a big comeback win. I'm calling that as well. Mackenzie Dern, my girl, she also is going to win. I'm going to have a couple predictions there. So just to throw it out there, I got on this card coming up, I got Covington, I got Price, I got Walker, and I got Dern. I'm guaranteeing 4 wins right there. I don't do that a lot, but I'm going to guarantee 4 wins. I'm also going to guarantee Dominic Reyes winning, and I'm going to go with the upset, not as confident, Paulo Costa at UFC 253 with a win. Eric, you discussed the fights. I do want you to give your opinions on the ones you think you're confident about picking as well.
Well, as far as right now, the ones that I'm definitely confident for that I know who are going to win, Dern is going to dominate Marcos. That's
damn right.
I'm going to go with her.
Yeah, I agree.
Cerrone, I love the guy. He will forever be a legend in the UFC. But, I think it's time for him to like maybe move on. But he said himself, he also said himself in his words that he's still going to continue fighting because he loves fighting. And he says that it would be great for him to keep on fighting. Money, yes, that is true. So for Cerrone, my respects goes out to Cerrone. He's going to still continue to fight. So there's no stopping him from that point. Maybe he might fight the RKJ Man just to make sure. So Nico Price might win. Yeah, so Nico Price. Yeah, so it doesn't matter how old he is, he can still whoop ass. With that being said, Nico Price, he came off of a very great and violent fight against Vicente Luque, but I think with that dominance that he had, that he was dominated by, Nico Price, he's going to return the favor and do it on Cerrone. 2 tough dudes. I just think Nico Price has got the upper hand. And when I go with Covington and Woodley, maybe people may not like my decision about this whole thing, but, Covington, you got to respect the fact that the guy, he has endurance, cardio. He's going to lure Woodley in. He's going to tire him out, and he's going to, if he thinks that Woodley's going to box, Covington's also going to do the same thing too. So we also saw that too with him and Usman, that they can box. Covington, he was pissed off that the referee stopped the match too early, but we all know the decision because of that match. But I think Covington, with his cardio, his endurance, his boxing, and his counter wrestling, if boxing doesn't work out for Covington, he can always go to wrestling. So by wrestling Woodley, it would tire him out. Woodley, if he doesn't listen to his coaches, again, he's going to get the same result that he had with Burns. So, I mean, like you said, Nick, I want Woodley to prove me wrong. This time he can learn from his coaches. He can listen to him. Blachowicz and Dominic Reyes, we all saw what Dominic Reyes did to John Jones. People are going to say the at the time, I think it was the Houston judges, right? It was the Houston judges that were doing. Yeah. Okay. With that being said, obviously Houston Astros maybe also being involved, part of that too. So, yeah, obviously nothing ever goes right in Houston. But with that being said, just kidding. With that being said, John Jones.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah.
Maybe I may have pissed off some Houston fans. I don't know. Who knows?
The Texans say hi.
Oh my God. They traded DeAndre Hopkins for a 2nd-round pick. Ridiculous.
That's where you got.
I know who also traded away their future, the Clippers.
I walked right into that one. I walked right
You gotta slip that in, man. Well, with that being said, John Jones of Blachowicz, Blachowicz, he's a great fighter. My respect goes out to the man, but I think after that match between John Jones and Dominic Reyes, maybe it sparked something on Dominic Reyes in order for him to prove something to the light heavyweight division. So Dominic Reyes, he proved me wrong on that match that he had with John Jones. So the title's on the line again. This is his second opportunity to go after for some gold. So I'm going with Dominic Reyes. Goes the distance. That's what I believe. And Adesanya and Costa, there's a lot of heat between those two guys. Adesanya, he's a trick guy. He likes to play tricks. If he's going to think about he's going to do the same thing too, what he did to Yoel Miro, that's not going to happen because Costa, he says that he's not going to want to repeat that same result that happened with Romero. So Costa is going to catch him. And if anything, I think that this match is going to go to the decision. I'm going to have to go with Costa on this one. Costa, this might be the guy who's going to take out Adesanya. Adesanya is a great fighter, but I think also at the same time the shit talking can get the best of him. So Costa, I think he's going to be the guy who's going to beat and dominate Adesanya. So that's what I think.
Oh, man.
RKJ, I want to ask you a question about something. We talked about this, I think, a little bit earlier, or even before we recorded. This Hamzat Chimaev, he fought 2 times in 10 days on Fight Island back in July. He's scheduled for a fight against kind of a journeyman and Gerald Meerschaert on this Fight Night card. He's also scheduled already for a potential fight with a UFC legend and Damian Maia at a later date already. Think about something like that. Do you think that's good that UFC is doing that kind of stuff? Or do you think they're doing this man wrong by kind of setting him up a little bit, maybe for failure?
I think they're doing this man right. If he's willing to accept the fights and accept it and beat these guys, then absolutely. I see killing on live television for this next fight against this journeyman guy. And as far as this UFC legend dude, we know how those things work out. He'll probably destroy this guy too. So, I mean, the fact of the matter is this. If he wants to fight and UFC's got fights for him, they've got money, he wants to make money, he doesn't want to be sitting around doing nothing during a pandemic, quarantining in his house or in his area or going to work at his other job, and he's got an opportunity to go fight in beautiful Abu Dhabi, then yeah, I'm taking that money and I'm going to fight. So absolutely, I'm down for that man to fight as many times as he wants.
You know what?
Go ahead.
He's actually kind of reminds me of Donald Cerrone because he'll take any fight at any time.
I want to go down Donald Cerrone's path. He go down Donald Cerrone path, he gonna get knocked out by Conor McGregor or someone else.
Well, no, but he does take that path though. What he just did.
Yeah.
2 weeks, 2 notice, 2 fights.
Does anybody think Meerschaert wins?
No.
Think that upset happens?
No, I don't see that upset happening at all.
I think Meerschaert is too much of a technical fighter. I think Chimaev will dominate him. He'll at least win by decision. I agree with you guys on that one. I was just hoping somebody else would say it. Something controversial at the end of the podcast. But yeah, that's it, guys. I mean, it's a very fun podcast today. We're about at the hour mark. We got some stuff to do after this podcast, so we got to get off. UFC 253 in a week. Obviously, UFC Fight Night, Covington Woodley this Saturday or last Saturday. Whenever you're watching this podcast, you know what happens. See if we were right. See if my 4 predictions were correct. See if I was right about Dominic Reyes. All that shit, right? And then maybe see if I was right about Costa as well. If you skipped forward in this podcast for some reason, go back. We talked about Miro going to AEW. We talked about the third party stuff with WWE. And also, I'm sure you heard it throughout the podcast, RKJ Man lighting me up with a lot of his Clippers jokes. I actually thought he could have gone a little harder, to be honest. I thought he could have gone a little harder. You could have added a couple later. I set you up for a couple too, and I was like, oh, hopefully he doesn't say it, and you did.
I was honestly trying to fit it in the flow of the podcast, to be honest.
Perfect. True podcaster right there. But yeah. So always, subscribe and comment. You saw our little video earlier. I just straddled the chair like a stripper when we did that little thing, which is very uncomfortable. So I hope you guys appreciate that.
Hey, Lou,
yeah, this is the.
Lou Williams definitely appreciates it. He's probably gonna be watching this.
Here's what we learned.
Lemon pepper wings right now. Lou Williams, shout out
I
to lemon pepper wings.
Learned some things on this podcast. I learned that you could have socially distanced lap dancing, and I also learned that raking with a K, not the other thing, raking animals is a thing. Because apparently RKJ does that to animals. So I don't know.
I don't know what cowboys do, so I just used up a random word. Okay, if you want to get me for it, you can. Peter, come after me. Okay, but I'm the Lakers. Okay, we gonna dominate. We gonna win our 17th championship, and you gonna be on the sidelines watching us like you are. Get out of here with that BS LAR way. That is the most ridiculous. Whoever said that needs to get fired. They need to get fired immediately. LAR way. It is your way because you sitting at home watching us.
Damn, savage.
I
can't argue it though. I cannot argue it. That's what happens.
Just see like memes that happen.
And the NBA was so desperate to anoint Kawhi Leonard because they needed a face because LeBron's leaving in a few years. But I'm sorry, Kawhi ain't the one. He just needs to hire somebody to teach him how to laugh. Honestly.
Just know that by our next podcast, if the series is ended and the Nuggets do in fact beat the Lakers, just know it's coming right back at you. It's coming right back at you. I'm just telling you that right now.
Get ready.
Don't let the chicken nuggets beat you guys.
Hey,
don't let the chicken nuggets beat you guys.
I lost count. How many championships have we won? How many championships has the Clippers won? Oh, my bad.
This year. Just stay with.
My bad. Let's end this podcast, okay? This is becoming sports, okay? I got you on this one, okay? You got to admit, all right? So maybe, as in the words of Little Wayne's, what goes around comes around like a hula hoop. You probably will try to get me with the Cardinals, but it ain't going to happen because my Panthers are going to win in a couple weeks anyway.
Big win for the Cardinals. Go Cardinals.
No go Cardinals.
RKJ, you're supposed to end the podcast, bro. You know how it ends every week. What are you doing?
Like, comment, and subscribe. Go Lakers. But as always, raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals.
It's the Sauce, Alexander, and you're watching the Ring General Podcast. Turn this man around. Subscribe, like, and comment.
But raise a glass in the sky and salute the ring generals.
That's right.